Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Did the New York Jets just save their season on Thursday night or just postpone the inevitable? Also, the fate of the NFC North is in the balance this Sunday, and the Niners will win the West. A Football Friday starts right now. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today to make that first ticket purchase. What time is it? Game Time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
On Thursday night, Jets fans must have felt like Al Pacino in The Godfather. Just when they thought they were out, the Jets pull them back in. A 21-13 win over the Houston Texans. Aaron Rodgers tosses a trio of touchdown passes, including one of the best catches you will see this year from Garrett Wilson. John Butchko from Locked On Jets joins me now. And John, the season might be over, sure, but it also might not be, I guess. What is your biggest takeaway from Thursday night in New York?
This game reminded me a lot of a game the Jets played against the Texans last year. Last year they played this game. It was a little bit later in the season. I think it was early December, and it was a really ugly first half. And then the second half they went out and dominated. And it was really kind of a respite in a lost season. It was, in a season where you just did not see a lot of good football. You finally saw at least 30 minutes that you could enjoy. And look, we'll see what it means going forward. I think it's way too early to make proclamations that the team's turned it around, especially if you saw some of the mistakes they made in this game. But for when you're on a 5-game losing streak, it's nice to finally have something positive to point to.
Yeah, Zach Wilson last year had 300 yards against this Texans team in 2023 in a 30-6 win. Devontae Adams got in the end zone. Garrett Wilson looked like he had much better rapport with Aaron Rodgers in this game. If you're going to make the case, John, and I know we've talked about this before, that they can get this going, it's that the schedule is not the hardest and they have some weapons here. Does this give you any hope that they can turn this around this season, and not just turn it around and play better? Because I think we expect them to play a little bit better. Can they make the playoffs from here? Did this give you hope that they can do that?
They have a lot to clean up. This is a team that's still making a lot of really dumb mistakes. It's a team with a lot of undisciplined moments in this game. I mean, the one that everyone will point to is Malachi Corley, who barely played this year. And
it's a tough one.
One of the biggest complaints of the Jets fan base is why don't they give this guy a chance? And they gave him a chance, and he pretty much messes up a touchdown by dropping the ball at the 1 yard line. But the other one, Eric Watts, committing a really bad penalty on a field goal, which actually worked out for the Jets because it took a field goal off the board. The Texans decided we're going to keep the ball. The Jets end up stopping them and then missing a field goal. So that actually, that dumb penalty actually got the Jets 3 points in this game. I think that if you're looking for a silver lining, most people are going to look to the offense. I thought, Garrett Wilson had an outstanding game. Devontae Adams looked like Devontae Adams for the first time in a Jets uniform. This looked like the guy that we came to know and love in Green Bay. But the thing that really jumped out to me was the play of Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams was dominant in this game, and Quinnen Williams has gone off to a really slow start this season. The Jets played a horrible first half. And again, if we're talking, reasons for, can the Jets carry this forward? That first half might suggest that, maybe not, because this was not a full 60 minutes. Jets had 32 passing yards in the first half. The defense allowed the Texans to move the ball, and they had some fortunate moments. A lot of those fortunate moments were created by Quinnen Williams, and when Quinnen Williams is going, he lifts an entire defense up. He makes life easier for everybody else. And I felt like Quinnen Williams kept the Jets in this game. And you usually wouldn't say that in football about one player, but every time the Jets needed a big play in that first half, every time it felt like the Texans were about to break away, Quinnen Williams stepped up, either got a sack, got a quarterback hit. He did something. There was one play, I think he stripped C.J. Stroud when the Texans were in field goal range. And I think for this defense to play at the level people were expecting it to, And I know statistically this was a very good defense, but it's been a very inconsistent defense. They've had some really bad moments, and they haven't been able to get big stops this year. Quinnen Williams' level of play has been a part of that, and I think he's finally started to look like Quinnen Williams the last couple of weeks. If the Jets are going to get on a roll, he's got to continue playing at that level, and we're finally starting to see it.
Yeah, and I think there were some questions, and you brought this up. When you take Robert Saleh away from this team and promote Jeff Ulbrich, you're taking the defensive coordinator away from the defense and elevating him. So in a way, you're taking away from what was already the best part of this team. We saw tonight, 13 points. CJ Stroud, 11 of 30. Let's not shortchange him. 11 of 30. This is the version of the Jets defense we were expecting to see coming into the season.
Absolutely. It's been one of those things where because the statistics have looked good, people haven't appreciated the true level of play. But, they played a New England team week 3 that really was not capable of moving the ball. They played a Denver team the next week that, it was a bad weather day. Bo Nix couldn't throw the ball within 5 yards of any of his receivers in that game. I'm not exaggerating. You can go back and watch. I know it sounds funny, but if you actually watch that game, it's true. This was a genuinely really good performance by the Jets defense. This is the defense we've seen the last 2 years. And look, this Jets, for all the big names on offense, this is still a team that I think is going to be carried by its defense. I think when the Jets win, you're going to see big defensive performances. And this is the type of thing where there's a lot you saw that the Jets need to clean up. But if they can play like this, maybe they can start to string some wins together. It's going to be really tough from 3-6, but if it's going to happen, this is at least the springboard you needed to see.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Jets by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Jets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up on a football Friday, the fate of the NFC North is in the balance on Sunday. Before we get to that, we go around the league to get you set for Week 9. Get ready to tackle the NFL action all year with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel, of course, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be an NFL game in Week 9. The Packers home dogs this Sunday to the Lions, but will they roar? FanDuel has the Packers 2.5-point underdogs to the Lions. I guess it should be howl if they're underdogs. But we're talking about the line. I don't know. The animal metaphor got all mixed up. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The keys to a Browns win over the Chargers begin with the running game.
For the Browns, I'm going to start here. Look, I believe it's 4.8 yards per carry. The Chargers, the one thing they're not necessarily that great at is defending the run. Look, the Browns offensive line is playing better. This will be Nick Chubb's 3rd game back. There were a couple of spots, had a 15-yard run on Sunday. There were a couple of spots where you said, you know what, he's almost there. He's almost there. Well, you see a team who's giving up 4.8 yards per carry. Maybe there's an opportunity for the Browns to do some damage here in this run game. I'm not going to lie. A guy like Ladd McConkey scares the living daylights out of me. I have watched guys like this just absolutely torture the Cleveland Browns for years upon years upon years. And knowing that there's a really good shot that Denzel Ward will not be a part of this party probably makes it even worse. So all eyes certainly on, I believe it's number 15. I always want to say 84, but that was college, of course, 15, Ladd McConkey, who's really coming on. The other one, and I'm going to say it like I said it last week. Look, it's not over. Your season isn't over. I mean, it is still, it'll be November then, but it is still early. You are not even at the halfway point. You need to show up.
The Vikings badly need to keep stacking wins, and they've got a chance with the tumultuous Colts on tap.
I think this one comes down. I like the penalties point. The Vikings have had a horrible issue with pre-snap penalties.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with the matchup. Sometimes they can't get lined up. It's been really embarrassing. So that they've had, maybe some of that was just Thursday night kind of jittery stuff. It's just, the nature of Thursday night football, stuff gets sloppy, but it hasn't just been that. They've also been up against the play clock a bunch. Like their operation from kind of between downs has been really slow and sloppy. So if like whichever team can figure that out might have a better shot here. But I do think it's the team that can get out of those long yardage situations. And especially when the Colts have the ball. This is really, I think, how you can tell who's going to win this game, because the Vikings in the last couple games have been phenomenal on first down, dreadful on second down. They'll get you to 2nd and 12 and then let you convert it. And they've actually, in the last 2 games with this defensive meltdown, they haven't even gotten you to 3rd down.
The Falcons' key to beating the Cowboys, they're simple.
I think number 1, you don't want Dallas to have a get-right game. Number 2, you just want to run the football as effectively as other teams have done against this Cowboys defense. And, piggybacking on the point you made, is win the turnover battle, right? And when I talk about getting right, don't let Dallas get right? Cowboys 32nd in the NFL in rushing the offense. They're 31st in the NFL in red zone offense, right? And the Falcons are historically known for being that get right team where it's like whatever issues you're dealing with, you can do it against the Atlanta Falcons. And this year hasn't been too different. Their red zone defense isn't particularly good. Their rushing defense isn't particularly good. So don't let Dallas get into a groove and have that type of game that we're talking about that they haven't necessarily been able to have. And then just break their will with the Falcons' own run game, right? I know some of these stats can be a little misleading because teams tend to run the football more when they're up in games. But under Mike McCarthy, when teams run for over 140 yards against the Cowboys are 5-15. I think they've lost 11 straight times when teams have hit that benchmark. So let's make it 12 if the Atlanta Falcons are doing what they're able to do.
The Jaguars' chances against the Eagles may come down to a couple of key mistakes from Trevor Lawrence, as many of their losses have.
I'm a little bit concerned about it because of their injuries, the fact that they're banged up. A healthy Jaguars team, they usually put up a good fight against everybody. That's just kind of the way it is. But they make enough mistakes. They did this a few years ago when they came up to Philadelphia. They'll make enough mistakes, and those mistakes will be huge. Like Trevor Lawrence played well last week. He's played well for 3 weeks in a row. The thing is though, he threw an ill-advised pass early in the game after the Jaguars had got a red zone interception against Jordan Love. He gave it right back to him, and they scored a touchdown. Then late in the game, when they're still in the game, I think at this point it's 20-17, he fumbles the ball inside of his own 5-yard line trying to run, and they went up by 10. Don't care how well you played down the stretch, you take those 2 plays out of the game, it's a whole different ball game. So you're going to see somebody in Trevor Lawrence that you're going to be like, I see why they think he's a franchise quarterback. And then you'll see a few plays where you go, I see why other people don't.
The NFC North may very well turn into a 2-horse race sooner than later. Those 2 horses face off this Sunday at Lambeau Field. I was joined by Locked On Lions host Matt Derry, and we looked at the keys to a win for either side on a Locked On Packers, Locked On Lions crossover Thursday. I mentioned the Lions 3.5 point. Can you think of a time 3.5 point favorites in Lambeau, and both teams were good? I can't. I don't know that that's happened in our lives.
No, I can't either. And again, I know it's been the last 2 years, and certainly that was that Week 18 stunner and ending Aaron Rodgers' career. But Lions went into that game an underdog as well. I think every year I have found a reason since it happened. So 2021, not that long ago, but still. Probably every month or two, I will bring up what Dan Campbell did in that week. Was it week 18? Were there 18 weeks in 2021? Yes.
Where he's throwing fake field goals and reverse passes, and they did everything in a game that did not matter to them, but was a cultural marker for them to say, this is what we're going to do. I've said on this show, I've said on radio interviews, I've written at The Leap, a newsletter I would love for everyone to subscribe to, that especially if it's Malik Willis, that's the game I want to see Matt LaFleur call. That is the game where you say, we're going to empty the chamber, everything in our back pocket. We're going to be digging out old Nike bags, trying to find plays. Let's see what we can do, because I love that opportunity. This is going to be a banged up Packers team, no matter what, even if everyone plays. I think they're going to be hard pressed to win this game. I want to see the creativity from Matt LaFleur on full display. And it is such a credit. I have to take the biggest L on Dan Campbell, because I was wrong. Like, I was flat out wrong about Dan Campbell. Now I want the Packers to imitate that plan, even though they're a 6-2 team. They're a good team, but they're just really banged up right now.
I agree with you. I do think these are the best two teams in the NFC, and you want to see both teams at full strength. I'm excited for the Thursday game in December when the Lions and when the Packers come to Ford Field. I mean, there's a lot of storylines here, and you look at the NFC and how wide open it is after what happened with the Commanders last week and everything else. Yeah, these are probably the two best teams in the NFC. Very well coached, very well drilled. Both defenses are better. I think what'll be a key for the Lions, I mentioned before, Sam Laporta, middle of the field. Not having Jamison Williams out there didn't matter last week against the AAA Titans. I think they are. Let's be honest. That poor guy, Callahan, has no. Where are we going with?
He's got no clue.
He's not ready to be a head coach. But this week, without Jamison Williams, I think the Packers maybe, like you said, load the box a little bit because they know that threat of number 9 running down the field is not there. But I do think that Laporta sneaking by could, and maybe Ben Johnson gets him in a one-on-one with a linebacker or two, could be the difference in this game. He has not had a breakout Sam Laporta 100-yard game yet. Yeah. He's had some good games, but he was kind of held in check the first few weeks, similar to how Kelsey was in Kansas City. This could be that game you find Laporta. And another one, too, is first outdoor game for the Lions this year. And the only one they're going to have until December when they have to go to Chicago and San Francisco back-to-back. How will Jake Bates handle it? The young rookie kicker from the UFL has been really good. You know, Dan Campbell likes to go for it anyway, but if he sends Bates out there, he's been great. And it's tough to kick in Minnesota, and he did. But again, first outdoor game, you wonder how that will go. And if there's a miss or two in there, if that could prove to be a costly for the Lions. How about on your side?
Yeah, well, two things on that. The Packers are 26th in DVOA defending tight ends this year. They've had some problems with it. Part of that is because they've been playing a lot of cover 2 lately behind blitz looks. So they'll send those pressures and then they'll drop into cover 2. Well, the part of you want to attack in cover 2 is that seam. So you get tight ends down the middle. Trevor Lawrence had a couple gorgeous plays throwing to the tight end in those kinds of situations. The other part of this, Matt, is it's going to be in the 50s. It's going to be rainy as of the forecast right now, which can affect the kicking game. What was the first thing Dan Campbell said when asked about going to play at Lambeau? Have the right shoes. This is perpetually a problem for opponents. Viking fans are still crying about 2022. Stay up to date on the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Packers, that's my show, and Locked On Lions on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the NFC West will still belong to the San Francisco 49ers this year. A rough season for the 49ers so far. Injuries and ineffectiveness have plagued them. They've benefited from a pretty mid-division in the NFC West, though, as Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers explains to the NFC squad, the Niners are still the best of the bunch.
Every team in the division has looked quite mid so far this season. The ceiling for the 49ers is clearly the highest, though, and I think in the end it's going to be 49ers, Seahawks battling this out. And the Seahawks I have more and more questions about them every single week. The 49ers getting Christian McCaffrey back. They're licking their wounds on the bye. They'll probably have another trade, big or small, I'm not sure, but they're going to be active in the trade market, I'm sure. And Dre Greenlaw potentially back in the second half of the year. I don't know if Talanoa Hufanga is going to come back, but the Niners have had a really nice young secondary step up with some young players, rookies, and second-year guys there. So I think the 49ers are going to be fine. I would actually like to see them add a defensive lineman more so than a wide receiver or something like that at the trade deadline. The Niners are going to be good. They're going to be fine. We've seen them have some awkward spells in past seasons and then rattle off 8 or 9 wins in a row and go to the NFC Championship game. So I do think the 49ers are the best positioned right now, even though if the season ended today, they'd be the 10 seed in the NFC with, all 3 teams at the top of the NFC West, all at 4-4 records. And then a half game back of them is the Los Angeles Rams. I just think the Rams will fall off, the Cards will fall off, and then eventually the Seahawks will fall off. But, with so many teams with such a head start, like the Vikings, in those wild card positions, and the Niners don't have a good record against the conference right now either. So they have to win the West. I think there's going to be one NFC West team in the playoffs, and it's the team that wins the division. So it's all about the NFC West right now for the 49ers. I think they are the best team, and that'll show out in the second half of the year.
I really want to disagree, mostly because I just don't want to see the 49ers in the playoffs from a Packers perspective. And the Seahawks have a dynamic offense. The Rams, when they're healthy, have a dynamic offense. The Cardinals have a dynamic offense. I don't know that any of these teams can play any defense, but the 49ers have Fred Warner. They have Nick Bosa. They have the pedigree. Even if they don't have the talent that they used to have, that they had a few years ago when they were a historically great defense, they're not that anymore. They're more like a fine to good defense now, even below average in some areas. But the infrastructure is still the best in the division. The combination of the quarterback, the coaching, and the talent, even without someone like Brandon Ayuk or the murky future of Christian McCaffrey, they still have Deebo Samuel. They still have George Kittle. Trent Williams is still playing at a high level. And they just seem to be able to pull running backs out of thin air. They're going to be fine. They're probably going to win this division. I may or may not have some action with our friends at FanDuel on the Seahawks to win this division and or to make the playoffs. I still think they can, but they got to play better, and the 49ers probably have to play worse. This is still... I want to disagree with Brian Peacock. Trust me, I do. I think he's right. And finally, happy Halloween, unless you like candy corn, apparently. This beauty comes from our Locked On Big 12 Squad show.
But I don't know about candy corn. That's a little bit extreme.
Candy corn is terrible. It's trash.
Oh, candy corn is good. What do we do? It's fine. It's just like
candy corn is a bottom tier candy.
It's
here for
2 months a year.
Mike Gundy likes candy corn.
It's garbage.
That's all I need to know about candy.
I always liked Mike Gundy.
And Mike Gundy's got a lifetime. Yeah, Richie, I know you, again, just got to the Big 12, but a lot to learn, man.
If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, what will Week 9 teach us about the NFL playoff picture? Yeah, we're talking playoffs already, baby. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.